Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of Make More Money Now. I'm Gerry Black, the sales copywriter, and my partner in crime is Patti Pokorchak, and she is the one is going to help you sort your way through a maze today. And I hardly even know where she's going with this, and you may see me squirm a little. So anyway, with that, let's get going. Patti?
I have to ask you why, Gerry? Why are you concerned about that?
Well, I just might not know exactly what to say. Did you just ask me a question?
I did. I let you answer too, but you're supposed to answer in the form of a question. But that's a game we're going to play later.
All
So
right. I need to warm up.
I know. I was just teasing you, as I want to do. So today, last week we talked about the FAQ, which are the static questions on your website, and we got a great response from our viewers, going, "Oh my God, that was such a blind spot." I had one friend who saw it, and immediately that same day did a page on her FAQs. So questions. So Gerry and I are, we're pretty equal in our background of sales and marketing, because sales and marketing is key to any business that you have. And when I first became a sales coach and trainer, and people said, "Oh, what are your closing tricks?" And I go, "Ooh, I don't do tricks. I don't do sleaze. I don't do manipulation. I just talk to people, basically." And the key to selling more is to ask better questions right up front. So at the beginning of your relationship with a potential client, is ask better questions right up front, and don't go for the easy sale of, "Oh my God, I found a pain point I can solve, let's do that." And it's like, no, take your time, because the questions are the key to your success. I always relate it to, like, remember when you were 3-year old and you went, "Why daddy, why mommy, why," and you just turned into this, drove your parents crazy, but really, and you don't want to irritate your clients, but you don't want to make it an interrogation. You want to make it a gentle conversation of, "Hey, Gerry, I hear you work for a generator kind of company. Well, how did you fall into that kind of business, given your background?" It's just like some curiosity. Be curious. So the who, what, where, why, the open-ended questions. Because don't forget, that person on the other side of the conversation, other side of the screen right now, they're kind of nervous about you selling to them, and they don't want to be sold to, even though they kind of have an inkling they could use your service. So they're going to be a little tense. The more questions you ask to get them talking, and people love to talk about themselves. As I should give this guy a name besides elephant, okay? But I always, if you remember, part of my journey is I was this shy, insecure introvert, and I didn't like to talk. And what that meant is, but I was insanely curious about people. What makes them tick? How did you get there? And how did this happen? And what did this? And just ask questions. And once, I led them, you lead people through your sort of sales process, their buying journey, through questions. And, once I got to okay, so where's the pain? Do you ever have a problem which my training or my consulting or my products can solve for you? And then they go, "Yeah," and I go, "Well, how, is that in this year's budget?" And they go, "Yeah, it is." And they go, "Oh, well, we've got the solution. So would you like some?"
And a lot of what that's a good point too. Don't say anything when you ask that final question. And a lot of, I think, what happens during that sort of feeling out process is when you're asking these questions, the person feels less like they're being sold to and more like they're in a conversation. And so when you are able to steer things around, maybe to a little more focus on what their pain points are, and you start zoning in on those, I don't think many people really feel a lot of resistance at that point, because they've already been having a pretty natural conversation with you up until that point.
That's right. I mean, I call it the BBF, your best business friend, because you want to have that kind of easy camaraderie. You want it to be relaxed. You want it to be open. You want to establish that know, like, and trust factor, right? And the reason I bring out the elephant, the big ears, is that what I find a lot of sales reps and entrepreneurs make the mistake of, they have a script and they go down that script no matter what the answers are. And it's like, No, 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 no. The objective of the exercise is not to get all 10 tickies done. It's like to actually listen and go, oh, okay, this is taking me off script, so I better follow where the customer wants to go. Because if you're trying to force them back into, no, no, I want to sell you this, I think you need this, it's like, no, 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 you're going to get the resistance. Selling is not about manipulation. It's not about forcing people to buy. And actually, selling is listening. It's not talking. When you think about it, if there's some tools you can get online, I'm trying to remember what the Gong is one where you can record your conversations and they will give you an analysis of how much you were speaking versus the client was speaking.
Hmm.
Yeah, there's some really great tools because you want to monitor that, especially as a sales leader, even as an entrepreneur or business owners, you want to monitor. So your sales reps say, oh, I've been talking to people, not getting anywhere. Well, yeah, you've been talking instead of asking questions. And,
Yes.
so
And
that's one of the key points.
it's interesting too. I'm sure, Patty, you've been in this situation where you're talking to people, but you're asking your questions. That's your form of talking. You're asking the questions. You go on for about 25 minutes, and maybe you've asked anywhere between 10 and 15 questions. And when it's all over, they'll say, we had a really great conversation. They're talking about the fact that you're a great talker, but the fact of the matter is you hardly said anything. You were just
No,
asking the questions.
that's right. Because I mean, it's just like, I've had clients who had that problem and this is what they did. And these are the results. You just added you tell a little story, stories sell. And that's why you need to have your case studies really, really well practiced so you can do it in under a minute. You don't want to bore people with a 15-minute monologue. Like it just does not work. Like you say, Gerry, it's that give and take, but it's more as a sales, if you're trying to sell to them, it's really open up your ears, listen really actively. I always make notes. I cannot have a conversation without a pen in my hand because that's what anchors. And I can using a red pen, I can highlight and go, I need to go back to that topic, right? I mean, when somebody drops a little gem and they're keep going, you go, oh, let's go back to that little. You talked about, operations is causing you some concerns. Can you elaborate? There's some really generic questions like, I'm curious, why or how did that happen? Can you tell me more about that? If you're stuck for like asking a question, there's some generic questions. Like one of the exercises I do in my classes, which I mentioned before, and this is a really tough one. I don't know how far we can go with this one, Gerry, but you cannot answer the question except with a question. So I don't know if you want to, let's say what I usually give my students is you're the Roger cell phone guy, right, at the store. And I come in and I'm a small business and I need I need a package of 5 cell phones. So we take the conversation of, so Gerry, what's a good deal with, for a package of 5 cell phones?
What do you think would be a good deal, Patty?
What's your good discount for your best clients?
Well, I'm already stopped.
No answering except with
I'm already stopped.
Yeah. And
But I think also too, let me just jump in here with this thought, is I think that really underscores the need to be prepared with your questions, because your questions are going to be designed and developed to control the conversation. So it doesn't mean that you're restricting your prospect, but you don't want, if the conversation goes down a rabbit hole and you're answering questions, there's nothing wrong with that. But you want to make sure that you can always come back to the questions that are going to help you achieve your goal, which is determining whether or not there's an opportunity to arrive at a mutually beneficial outcome.
That's right. You know what? That's a great point. Is what we pointed out in that short exercise is that I always say is improv training is really good for sales training because you have to think fast on your feet. And that little exercise is a bit of improv. You can only answer the question with a question, and you see how how hard it is to go more than 2 or 3
Very.
generations. And
Yes.
that's the same thing as if you're faced with a prospective client and they're kind of like, so what's your biggest issue? People. One word answers is like,
Yeah.
okay, could you describe more what you're, yeah, they're lazy. God, when you've got somebody and you really have to figure out that key question that's going to open up the floodgates, it can get really nerve wracking. And I think that's why improv training is good, because it makes you think fast and
Yes.
go, okay, hey, by the way, or can I tell you a story about this? Or you just kind of, sometimes you really have to juggle balls and go, how am I going to get this person to open up to me? And
Yeah.
that's really the purpose of the question, is just to go, hey, tell me more about you, because I know me 100%, but I don't know anything. I don't know enough about you except what I've been able to Google and see, on LinkedIn. So tell me more about your situation. What's the story behind the story? You just had this merger. How's that going? Tell me how that happened. What's the impact on your department? Like, you just have to know little things and go, tell me, curious. That's it. And that's I think one of the top skills in the 21st century is to be curious and open and adaptable and go with the flow, And you made a good point before, is one thing, the most difficult thing I think for most people is silence. Okay. And you made the point before, I asked you a question and then I zipped it. It's only polite. You ask a question, wait for the answer. And you don't have to like go, or fill it with, blah, 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 babble. Don't. Is people are processing. If you've had this good discussion and then, you sort of took them down a little guided path of like, yeah, so you could benefit from working with me, don't you think?
Yeah, that's exactly right. You made a point earlier I wanted to come back to about note taking.
Yes.
Um, when we're asking other people questions, one of the big things I do is I always ask them if I can take notes. And when you think of it from this point of view, first of all, people don't get asked for their thoughts very often. So that already positions you as someone who's, they like right away. And then they also don't get their words written down. And that's a thoughtful, very professional way, I think, to send a message that what you say is important to me. And I've never in 25, 30 years had somebody say, I'd rather you didn't take notes.
That's right. Yeah, that's a really good point, is getting what I call the nodding dog syndrome, is get them to start saying yes to you. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, sure, Gerry. And the benefit is it anchors the information better in your brain than typing it out. And as we all know, people's memories are crap. I was out for lunch with my brother last week. We ordered 2 sandwiches. Two. We got one wrong. Okay, he got one wrong. We should have sent it back. But anyways, it's just, people think their memories are good. And even if you're younger, it ain't so good, because there's nothing like having that proof. Show it to me in writing is a key thing. So again, just to recap, questions on your website are really, really important, your FAQs, but then you've got to make it into a verbal, a list of questions. And then remember, selling is listening, not talking. Be comfortable with silence. You ask a question. That's it. That's it for the show. Anyways, thanks for joining us. See you next week.
Bye, Patti.
Bye.